You're going to hear from an advocacy standpoint, for me, you'll hear from a design and build experiential component from Trail Solutions. Planning and strategy. Why do we do it? I should have flipped these because the quotes really sort of go in to the why you do it, and this is more like how you do it. The best, starting with the process, quoting Ike, he said, in preparing for battle, I've always found that plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. What he meant there is that the process of going through the planning thing helps you understand the field better. You know what's going on, you know where you need to be, you kind of have a good feel. But the second that first shot is fired, all goes out the window, and you got to deal with what's in front of you. That's the same thing with land managers. You lay out the plan, you have all the stuff, you get out there, and there's a toad. And all of a sudden, everything's got to change. So you have to be adaptable and ready to do that. But you've gone through the planning process, you know what you're trying to do, and you can adapt, and you can think through it, because you've done the process. Then the other part of that is knowledge. And quoting Sun Tzu in The Art of War, if you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. This is the key. You have to know what you want and what your land manager is capable of. If you don't know those things, you're going nowhere. So when I think of this from an advocacy perspective, the first step that I would take is knowing what you as an organization are, what you're capable of, and what your community wants and needs. If you don't have the volunteer capacity to build 18 miles of trail, don't even kid yourself that you can do it. Start with a mile. Work to it. If you have amazing fundraising capacity and a huge bankroll, you go crazy. If you don't, don't. Think about what you can do. And also understanding that even you as a club are not the only entity. There are other parts of the community that are going to be involved. Maybe not just mountain bikers. There could be another set of mountain bikers. There could be equestrians and birders and arborists and all these other people that have ideas for the landscape. So you need to bring them in and get their buy-in to what's going on, or you're going to run into hurdles that'll stop projects. The other part, knowing your land manager's sideboards. Okay, I hear a lot. Well, let's change what they can do. Let's get the Forest Service to do these things. Let's talk about reality. If there's something coded in a law or in a deed to a piece of property, that's not going to change. If it's in a deed, nobody's going to change that unless you can buy it and erase it. And sometimes you can't even buy that property and erase it out of the deed. So that's where you get a lot of state and municipal lands have those limitations baked into them from when they were acquired by the public place. So if it says passive recreation, it's not a place where you start thinking about putting a lot of trail. That sort of thing. So you have to have an understanding of all their sideboards, whether they're regulatory, legal, land-based. And then step 3, finding the solutions. Having an open mind and a creative mind that says, where can I do what I want to do and how do I make this work within the framework is really the key. So with that in mind, we'll talk about some different types of trail strategies. And I'm going to ask these two to chime in as they're ready. But you can see here we have a scope that you're working with and an objective. And sometimes you could start from either side of this, right? You know that you've got something in mind, but you don't know where it falls in the scope. How big is it, right? So just some examples. This is a regional trail strategy using a zone methodology where you're just sort of saying, yeah, we could put some trails that are like this here in this block, and more trails that are over here in this block, and a bike park in this block. It's really broad. But this could be something really simple that you could do on your own. And if you've done your homework and you know what each blob, how it covers the land manager's space, you know it's going to work. And you've sort of started to get buy-in from them, and then all of a sudden, this is your pretty picture that you take to the mayor's office, and you take to Thunder, and everybody else, and then they go, oh, I kind of get that. This is an example of a regional trail strategy using a corridor base. This is some of this could be a lot of existing work that you just want to make sure that you plan the experience. Where you're going, oh, we know this is the wicked backcountry route. We don't want to do anything there. We just want to make sure it's clear every year, and that's it. You know. Whereas this might be, oh, this stuff's all really close, and this is the nice beginner loop. We want to make sure that that's butter smooth and good for the kids. And this is where the NICA one is because there's camping over here, so we have the NICA race course over here. And we want to make sure that that's clean and ready, but challenging, and we spend a little more effort on it. That sort of thing. So this is a really good example, but it's really defined because a lot of it already exists. I'm going to jump through these pretty quick. This is a trail system, and you can see we're dealing with 2 land managers, not 9, or one massive one. So the character of the trail sort of changes as you go between them, where as soon as you get on, this was private land?
Yep.
So as you got onto the private land, they're like, gnar it up, do whatever. You know, and this starts to get rad, and this is more, no, because the risk management tolerances of the different landowners is vastly different. And then this is an individual trail strategy. This is like uber detailed. It doesn't, you won't always get this detail, but there are more and more land managers that are wanting to get to this level, where you can see here, they're saying this is what's here, this is what's here, this is what the spec is, this is exactly what those features look like. And this is partially a planning thing and largely a risk management thing.
So I'm just going to go through some plan types, what they get you, where they kind of fall in the flow of things, throw out questions throughout this, like whatever really comes to mind. But you know, we'll kick right off into master plan. But you know, every agency does some sort of planning. This is a Tahoe Drift kind of blob map that is the recreation opportunity spectrum. So it really highlights areas where they want rec, where they don't want rec, where it might be acceptable, where it's not acceptable, what types of recreation, more of a land type definition. So that's super blobby BLM. This is a full-on multi-use trail plan that they put together up in the, I believe that is up in the Florida area. And then a little more specific, and we actually have that, the copy of this plan here, is the a more specific, especially user-specific mountain bike concept plan, master plan that has some pretty vetted title alignments in it. So your master plan is one of those that it's a little bit conceptual, but all the alignments, not all of the alignments, most of the alignments tend to be field-proofed. They're pretty highly feasible, and when I throw out feasible, I mean it can be done. It might be $12 a foot trail, but if you need to get a trail through there to make a key connection, it's possible. So when we're throwing out feasible, it just means it can get done. It doesn't mean it can get done cheaply, it can get done quickly, but it can be done. So when you're putting together these master plans, your alignments tend to be field verified, your trailheads are field verified. Like, this is an awesome place for a trailhead. It has great access. It's a flat spot. Your paving costs are going to be pretty low to develop it. You have easy access to bring a crane in to drop a portage on in. There's even room to build changing rooms. So, you know, really things are getting vetted down to a little bit more detail. Your intersections are generally field verified and feasible. So you're locating intersections where you can run trails uphill into it. So you're not having high-speed bikers crashing into a super popular trailhead. So your intersections the trailheads are all field verified, all highly feasible. These can be for different uses, multi-use, can be single use. You're starting to define experiences a lot in here, so you are going to say, okay, well, maybe this green trail up here is multi-use, multi-direction. We have this pink spur off here. This is single direction for mountain bikers, dual direction for hikers. No equestrians through here due to wetland areas. Maybe this light blue over here has a different experience, a different use pattern. So you're starting to really define those use patterns, those experiences, those desired experiences. So concept plan, a lot of people will talk about a concept plan and think it's a master plan. I always treat a concept plan as a way to sell the idea to the stakeholders, to the land managers, to everybody making the decision by showing them exactly what is envisioned for this property, where the alignments are, lots of pretty pictures, and really defining the experiences. And really kind of on this experience kick lately, when I'm doing planning is not even referring to the trails as trails, referring to them as mountain bike experiences. This is the experience that we want to create. And with the concept plan, you start creating pretty renderings like that so you can see, okay, we're going to put a flowy, jumpy, bermy thing in the forest, and you can take that to anybody, even a non-rider, and sell it. Everybody's got smiles on their faces.
The local community person doesn't see this as a pump track, but what they get out of that is they get the scale. How big is this? How big are these piles of dirt we're talking about? Did you say piles of dirt bikes? And what are they thinking? They're thinking X Games. We're going to put 30-foot tall piles of dirt in the woods. The woods are going to be left. So it's small and it's got kids. You've got a picture of a kid in the woods. Hey, that's awesome. So and that's going to be a steady theme through the concept stuff. Is it gives a sense of what's there. So from the riding community, people can tell whether it's single track versus flowy, bermy kind of stuff. Whether it's jumps, it resonates to the riders, so they can buy into it. And then it gives some sense of the project to people who really have no idea about mountain biking, except that you're their taxpayers and you're their citizens, and you want to do something cool in their community, and they can't grasp it. These pictures enable them to grasp it and feel comfortable saying, yeah, that's a great idea.
So now we have a feasibility plan, which is just straight feasibility. This one is actually up out of Glenwood Springs, and this is taking a look at all the different land agencies. There are 3 up there that you're working with. All the different, how they interface with one another, different experiences that were identified during the stakeholder meeting, where those experiences can be cited, both for ease of access, both for the user, for emergency access, for construction, and how it fits in different levels of bureaucracy. So you want to identify those. And so through this, you start to create a pretty clear picture of what can go where, when you're going to time it, who you need to start contacting now, so BLM, Forest Service, and start working with, so 5 to 10 years down the road, you can actually put a shovel in the ground. And in the meantime, you've already got approvals from the city and you're digging this summer. So you're building out the city while you're working with the BLM and the U.S. Forest Service, so you can start getting into those lands when all that stuff's done. So that's kind of the level of feasibility plan. No actual alignments are really identified. It's more kind of, we could do something downhill over here, maybe a climb over here, big backcountry experience back in there. But it's identifying all the players and all the experiences